Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Station's ready.
Wheat Ridge High School, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Congressman Ed Perlmutter here with the students from Wheat Ridge High School. How do you hear me?
Loud and clear, Congressman. Nice to have you today, and with all the students, glad to do this.
Commander, I can't tell you how excited all of us are to speak with you today here from Wheat Ridge, Colorado. You're going to get a lot of interesting questions from the farmers. So this is the Wheat Ridge farmers. And we have some very important people in the audience. A friend of yours, Steve Lindsay, is here. We have Colonel Harvey, who is a Tuskegee Airman, is here. And we have some fantastic students who have great questions for you today. We're proud to be part of this uplink, and we're proud to talk to you, an astronaut from the United States of America, and I think originally Texas. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the young people who are going to ask you questions. You may want to just introduce yourself for a second, and then they'll get started.
All right, sounds great. I'm retired Army Colonel Shane Kimbrough, commander of the International Space Station. We have a crew of 3 on board right now. I have 2 Russian cosmonauts with me. Here tomorrow, we're going to get 3 more crewmates, so that's going to be awesome to have another American, a Frenchman, and another Russian on board. So it'll make our Expedition 50 crew of 6. And hello to Steve Lindsay.
Good morning, Commander, and welcome to our high school. My name is Gracie Mione, and I'm a junior here. My question for you today is, what have you learned along your path as becoming an astronaut that has shaped you who you are today?
Well, it's my whole career, I guess, kind of encompasses that question. I've learned a lot about leadership. I've learned a lot about how to be a team member, how to be a part of something bigger than yourself. I think is a big thing I've learned along the way. This space flight is amazing, but it's not everything, and it's not about me. It's about the NASA team. It's about the Russian Space Agency team, the European Space Agency team, and the Japanese Space Agency team. So it's much bigger than any of us alone. I think that's one thing I've learned along the way.
Thank you.
Hello, Commander. My name is Max Harris, and I'm a 9th grader. My question for you is what are the biggest challenges that we face to make the space travel to Mars a reality?
That's a great question. It's a big topic these days, which is awesome. I think the biggest challenge is just trying to figure out how to get astronauts to Mars and return home safely. It sounds kind of simple, but there's a lot that's involved in that. Whether it's the workout machines that we have or the food we're going to eat or the systems on board the spacecraft that we have to keep us alive. So that's a very challenging problem.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Commander. My name is Caleb Coyne, and I'm a 10th grader here. And my question for you today is, how has being an astronaut influenced your mindset and outlook on the world?
Well, that's a good question. I've been an astronaut, I guess, about 12 years now, and I had my first flight in 2008. And so after that flight, I don't know if my perception or anything changed. It just kind of reiterated the mindset that I had. Again, kind of going back to that first question where it's not about me, it's about a bigger team. And I think I've continued that mindset throughout my career.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Eleanor Mang, a 9th grader. On your current mission, what is the most interesting science experiment that you're working on?
Great question. We've only been here a little over 3 weeks now, so we haven't gotten into most of the science that we're going to do on board. We have about 200 experiments that our crew is going to do over the next 3 to 4 months, which is really exciting. I've done a few things that so far personally on my body, which is, those are always interesting. I can't give you the details on those because it's private information, but those are always interesting to see. And it's all for use to figure out how we're going to get people away from low Earth orbit and go to places like Mars that we talked about earlier. I'm also growing some plants on board. I'm growing some lettuce and some cabbage, and that's going really well. So far, that's probably the most interesting thing that I've done.
Hello, my name is Alex Sanders. I'm a senior, and I'm curious as to how you are prepared to treat severe trauma on the International Space Station.
Very good question. Something we hope we never have to deal with. But if we do, there's always some medically trained people on the crew. I am one of those. And actually behind me, I don't know if you can see this board that I'm kind of pointing at. But if you can't, that's where we would actually take a patient that's going through severe trauma. We would strap them down to that board. And then we have all kind of equipment right around me here that we can handle pretty much any emergency that could come up medically. So we're very well trained. Of course, I am not a doctor, so some astronauts are, but most are not. So we would be actually talking to somebody in Mission Control who is a doctor, and they would be walking us through whatever procedure we needed to do.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Wesley Nichols, and I'm a senior at Wheat Ridge High School. I was wondering, how do you sleep in microgravity? Strapped down or floating around?
Very good question. We wouldn't get much sleep if we floated around just because you'd be banging into things. So we do strap ourselves down. We actually have a little, it's like I call it a bedroom, but we call it officially a crew quarters. It's kind of like a really tiny closet. And I actually brought my sleeping bag out here to show you guys. So here's what a sleeping bag looks like, and we have to secure it to the wall. So you can Velcro it or tie it off. I use these little rings on the side to tie mine off. And you can be in any orientation you want because it doesn't matter. There's no up or down up here. So you can sleep upside down or right side up, however you want to do it, whatever's more comfortable for each crew member. But you definitely want to make sure you're strapped down so you're not floating around and hitting the sides of your little bedroom.
Thank you.
Hello, Commander. My name is Kevin McCoy. I'm an 11th grader. What is the biggest or greatest challenge in training or preparation to become an astronaut?
Well, there's a lot of challenges involved in the training. You know, we do a lot of academics, we do a lot of studying. I think the biggest challenge for me is just especially for this flight, was the time away from home, away from my family and kids. That was tough. It was about a 2.5-year process, and it's about 40% of that was spent away, most of it being in Russia for training. Also learning the Russian language was very challenging for me.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jax Voss. I'm a junior, and I was wondering, what is the scariest experience you've ever had in space?
Well, I'm not sure I've ever had a scary experience, and I hope it stays that way. On my first flight, it was just a couple weeks long, and we didn't really have anything, thank goodness, that went completely wrong, and same with this flight so far. So we are prepared to handle a lot of emergencies. We get a lot of training. Most of our training for any space flight is dealing with emergencies with the vehicles or the systems on board. So we're very well trained, the whole crew is, and if something happens, I think we'll be able to take care of it.
Thank you.
Hello, Commander. My name is Jacqueline Pedlow, and I'm in 11th grade. My question for you today is, what is the funniest experience you have had in microgravity?
So I think a lot of funny events occur around the dinner table or like this little table we have that we sit around and eat our meals at. Food is always a fun thing up here because it's just so unique, and things are floating around, and we're just not used to that being on Earth. So we always have fun at meals, and a lot of our funny stories come out. It's just a good time to sit around with our colleagues and toss food around back and forth to each other, let it float into your mouth, or create a big water bubble that everybody can drink out of. or put M&Ms in the middle and watch them float around, things like that. So I think mealtime is probably the funniest time that I've had up here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello again, Commander. My name is Max Harris. What are the biggest challenges during a spacewalk, and how long does your oxygen tank last?
Spacewalks by nature are very challenging, physically and mentally. And when I did 2 on my first flight and realized how challenging they were. You're just so focused for about 6.5, 7 hours straight that your mind is completely exhausted when you get back inside. So it's physically challenging because you're moving about a 300-pound spacesuit around. Of course, it doesn't weigh anything in space, but it is a mass you have to move around, and it's pressurized, so you're fighting the pressure of that spacesuit every time you move your hands or you're moving your body around. So physically and mentally challenging are probably the 2 biggest things. To answer your second question, our oxygen tanks can last about 8 or 8.5 hours if you're not working super hard. It all depends on your workload. But typically these days we plan our spacewalks for 6.5 hours, and that typically covers the oxygen. We can also, if you need to, you can come back to the airlock, which is where we left out of, and kind of get a refuel. So it's kind of like going to the gas station for your car when you need gas. We can come back to the airlock and actually get more oxygen put into our suit by hooking up to a cord and making that happen. So that would obviously extend the life of the spacewalk if we needed it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brisa Williams, and I'm in the 10th grade. Do you believe that the private industry will provide an opportunity to travel to space in the future?
I absolutely do, and a couple of companies are pretty close. They're a few years away, I think, from putting astronauts or people on board and sending them into space. And I'm sure there's other companies down the road that are going to be doing the same. So I'm really looking forward to kind of this next decade or so where private industry really gets involved with sending people and also other vehicles into space.
Thank you.
Hello, Commander. My name is Isaac Torres. I'm in 12th grade. And my question is, what were your emotions the first time you saw an orbital sunrise?
Wow, I was completely awestruck. It's just unbelievable to see that for the first time. And the good part about it is we actually experience 16 of those sunrises and sunsets every day because we're going around the Earth every 90 minutes. Of course, we don't see them all, but I think when I saw my first one when I was outside spacewalking, that really blew me away. It just made me feel very humble. You can see the Earth's atmosphere, the thin layer that protects all of you down on Earth from living and dying. So it's very humbling.
Thank you, Commander.
Hello, Commander. My name is TJ Arbuckle, and I'm a 9th grader here at Wheat Ridge High School. My question for you is, can you please explain how the astronauts on the International Space Station communicate with Mission Control on Earth?
Yeah, sure. Very good question. We have what we call space-to-ground channels, and that's the formal communication. We do that through satellites that relay our communications back and forth from, in my case, to Houston most of the time. But like today, we have mission control centers all around the world. So typically, the U.S. astronauts will use the second channel, Space-to-Ground 2, we call it, to talk to Houston or to talk to mission control in Munich, where the European Space Agency has their mission control, or in Tsukuba, Japan, where the Japanese have their mission control center. So we would use that second channel. The Russians typically use Space-to-Ground 1 to talk to mission control in Moscow. Now, if we need to get everybody on the same channel and talk at once, we would use Space-to-Ground 1. That's kind of the universal channel for everybody.
All right, thank you.
Hello, Commander. My name is Colin Warren. I'm a freshman here at Wheat Ridge. I was wondering, how does it feel returning to Earth and landing in a capsule compared to a shuttle?
That's a great question, and I haven't experienced it yet, but I can tell you what I've heard. Landing in a shuttle obviously was really incredible, and Mr. Lindsay there can tell you he did it a lot more times than I did. But it's really fascinating for me to land on a spacecraft, running down the runway, kind of like an airplane. That was really, I think, comfortable is probably the right word, compared to what I'm about to do here in a few months when we come home. It's a little less comfortable, but the system that the Russians have works. We're under a parachute, and we come down and we just land in Kazakhstan. Kind of in my case, it'll be in February or March, so it'll be very cold out. We'll hit the frozen ground, probably covered with snow, going pretty fast. So it's just kind of my colleagues, I think, have said it's like a kind of like a car crash. You just hit the ground very hard. Everybody, in most cases, is doing just fine. So it's not a big deal. It's just something very different than people that flew on shuttle are used to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello, Commander. I'm Casey Kramer, and I'm in the 11th grade. Given all the potential dangers that you have in space, which one of those dangers scare you the most?
Well, I guess I don't really think about that very much, and that probably comes from a lot of my military training. I think I'm just geared to rely on my training, rely on the equipment. I'm confident in all that stuff, and that prepares me for a mission that's can be dangerous, whether it's in the military or here in space, because both of those environments can potentially be very dangerous. So I don't really think about that. I also have a lot of faith, so I use that to lean on when things maybe would get dangerous. But inherently, spaceflight is dangerous, but I don't think about all the things that could go wrong.
Thank you.
Hi, Commander. I am Teresa Kennison, an 11th grader. What physical activities are you able to do to stay in shape in space?
We have a great program now to take care of working out. We have this machine called ARED, which stands for Advanced Resistive Exercise Device. It's a machine that you can pretty much do anything you can do on Earth, like squats or bench press, shoulder press, deadlifts, anything like that, and you actually really feel like you're getting a workout. You can get up to 600-pound load on this machine. So obviously, again, things don't weigh anything in space, but the machine can actually put a load up to 600 pounds or so. So I don't think I'll be lifting that much, but it's incredible how much you can get going and build your strength while you're in space. This was not up here last time I was here, so it's really been great to work out on that. We work out at least an hour on that every day, along with an hour of cardio. So we have a stationary bike, which is to my left here. I don't know if you can see that in the screen or not, but that's a stationary bike, and we also have a treadmill that we can run on. So we do the bike about twice a week, and we do the treadmill about 5 times a week. So we're, in general, working out every day about 2 to 2.5 hours a day to maintain our muscle mass and our bone density and bone mass.
Thank you.
Hi, Commander. My name is Alex Coulter, and I'm in 11th grade. Are certain illnesses more dangerous when they are contracted in space?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Are certain illnesses more dangerous when they are contracted in space?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that question. We do a really good job of quarantining the astronauts and cosmonauts before we launch. And in our case, we were there a little over 2 weeks in quarantine, which means you get away from the general public and you're kind of sequestered so that you're not exposed to all the germs and things that people in the general public have. So by doing that, the idea is to come to space and not have any germs or not have any illnesses with you. In most cases, that is very true, and it was true in our case. But I have heard of a few cases where people have brought a cold up or something like that, but nothing really major that I've heard of anyway. And so the danger of bringing anything on board into a closed environment like this is if somebody is sick, then the whole crew is going to get sick pretty quickly. So a little different than Earth, where you have the atmosphere and the air to maybe dissipate an illness from a friend or something that you're not getting too close with. So we don't have that luxury here on board the space station. So we try to prevent all that by the quarantine process that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you.
Commander, hi, this is Ed Perlmutter again. I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak to us here in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. We feel very fortunate, to hear that you're growing lettuce and cabbage just like Matt Damon did something. He grew potatoes on Mars. We know that your training, your desire will come in handy no matter what crops up. And so we're just thankful that you serve our nation and that you're serving the future by doing what you're doing. And we here in Wheat Ridge want to give you a big thank you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Commander.
Well, thank you, and it's been a pleasure being with you today. I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, and it's an honor for me to serve.
Thank you very much, sir.
Station, this is Houston ICR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all the participants and guests from the Wheat Ridge High School station. We are now reconfiguring audio for the deferred release. And Shane, give us a call on to have some additional words for you on that at your convenience.